You said, I had a friend growing up that was African American. And my question would be, really? He was born in Africa?
And that's why, and I guess maybe I don't even necessarily know all the correct terms, but he was not born in Africa, no.
That is a correct term in the U.S.
Yeah.
That's one we made up.
Yeah. Huh. That's crazy to think about. And why do we do that?
It's that simple. I have tried to, over the past year and a half, since I've started down this road, to quit using the term. And so, yeah, Black American, white American.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No,
because he was born here just like me.
Right.
He's as much American as I am.
Right. Yeah.
Racism is something we made. Everybody keeps saying somebody needs to do something, and the somebody is me. Each one of us needs to do something. We're all U.S. citizens. We should take pride in that above everything else. That is our common bond. We're all human beings. Welcome to America Undivided. And it's my pleasure today to introduce my good friend Brett Lawton. So Brett, thanks.
Rich,
thanks
thank
for joining
you so
me,
much
brother.
for having me. I'm super stoked to be here and just kind of, share points of view. The biggest thing for me is I feel like this is what life's all about, is good quality conversation and sharing points of view, so I'm beyond stoked for this and for you having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Brett is a close friend of mine at this point. Brett and I've been friends with Brett's father for a couple of years now. Super competitive guy, right? He about killed me the other day. I don't know if he shared this with you or not.
He didn't.
He hasn't told you this?
In the gym or what?
So, as I said, he's a super competitive guy. We met on the racquetball court playing racquetball in the gym and stuff, right? So we were always competing with each other. And he's been trying to get me to do this assault bike challenge
Okay.
for like a year and a half.
I gotcha.
So I know it's not going to be easy, right? And I've been putting it off. But he's been telling me about how the record got broke, right? And so the other day we were doing a photo shoot over there, and next thing you know, the bike's sitting there, and we've talked about it a couple of times, right? And I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. So I go over there without any warm up, haven't eaten, and I get on this bike and I do that 60-second challenge. And I'm here to tell you, I did pretty good. Right, the record's 59. I was at 56, so
okay,
super respectable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
But then all of a sudden, reality sits in, and when I stepped off that bike, bro, I thought I was going to die.
Really?
I couldn't catch my breath to save my life. I felt like my head was going to pop off of my body. For 15, 20 minutes. I'm not kidding you. I thought we were going to be going to the hospital. Somebody was going to be picking me up off the floor. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was at least an hour before I could have left there driving, and I was cramping up. It was like an hour and a half later. I was cramping up the whole way home. My abs were Charlie horsing. I could not believe 60 seconds could do that much damage to the human body, or you'd have to recover for that long.
He talks about it, and I haven't done it yet because, as you already probably know, I'm not super physically active. I like to think that I exercise the mental side of things, but I need to be more physically active. And he's told me some crazy stories. I mean, even
I'm here to tell you, he said he has oxygen in the building. It doesn't need to be in the building. It needs to be by the bike. And a disclaimer sign, because somebody's going to get hurt. I couldn't believe it.
I love it.
But I still got your dad's respect, because I did really well. I'm not going to do it again, but I did. I'm loving it.
Oh, for sure.
I'm glad I got it behind me. So Brett, maybe share with people a little bit about how you and I became friends.
So when we first met, it was out on the golf course, and my pop said that he had somebody, that he wanted me to meet, And I remember meeting you, and I could just tell from the very get go, that you've got good energy, and I'm pretty perceptive to the energies. But he wanted me to meet you just because at the time I was kind of struggling. In the past I've had some issues with substances, and I just feel like my mind is always racing. Sometimes I need something to slow it down. And so you talked to me, and when you talked to me, I could just feel that there was no judgment, and I could tell that you had had a similar past. And I don't think my dad necessarily introduced you to me to change my mind or anything like that, but just to get a glimpse of what can happen. And you shared some of your stories with me, and I even shared some of my stories with you, and I think we both learned something, and you definitely hit home for me. But I think the biggest thing I took from that conversation was honestly when you even said that you took something from me. And at that moment in time, I realized that no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, you have to be humble enough to say that, hey, you can learn something from everybody, right? Because life it's all about growth. It's all about growth. And the second that you think that you know everything, you for sure as hell don't. You know what I mean? It's a constant uphill battle of grinding and struggling and building and then getting, shot down and building back up again and again and again. And that's just what life's all about. And so I don't know, man, that really hit home for me after we talked for probably 2 hours just sitting, just me and you. My dad had left at that point, and I've met a lot of really good people through my pops, so I'm very grateful for some of the connections he's connected me with. But, I just feel like me and you will be friends for life for sure. And a funny story, I actually, know what your contact name in my phone is? It's what? Rich parentheses in life. Because you're rich in life, man. And I knew that from day one. So, like I said, I'm just so stoked to be on here, man, and to pick your brain and have you pick my brain. This is what I love. This is what I live for,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
From the bottom of my heart. That to me, when I left meeting with you that day and text your dad, and of course I didn't share any details about what we were talking about, but what I said was, hey, great kid, loved the conversation, I don't think you have anything to worry about, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff, right?
For sure.
And then he shares with me, and I believe the text was the same thing you had just said, that we would be friends for life. That to me, having come from where I've come from, been where I've been, that to me means more than anything in the world, that something that I have been through was able to be shared and then help another individual or connect me even with another individual. Makes it all worth it.
100%.
Makes it all worth it. The simple comment that you made was something that I learned from the most unlikely of individuals. I was taught the principle of concentrate on the similarities and forget the differences in AA. And in doing that, it allowed me to get something from everybody that shares, And I'll never forget it. One time I was in Ogden, Utah at a big meeting. It was a noon meeting. And this gentleman, he spoke quite often. And you can tell that he had done well, in his life. He was an educated man, right? But he had had some accidents. And so at this point, he rode a bike and he didn't speak very well. And you couldn't even hardly understand what he said sometimes, right? So it was kind of hard to understand him.
Right.
So a lot of times when he started talking, people would actually start to cross-talk in the meeting and actually miss what he was saying. But I'll never forget this day because he stood up and he said, I don't know who I am today because I've never been this person before. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, oh my gosh, could it be that simple? You know, I don't know who I am today because I've never been this person before. See, to me, I interpreted that as based on the decisions I make today is going to determine the person that goes to bed tonight. And if I used a philosophy like that, then yesterday never matters. My past never matters. It's all about today. You know, and I can be and I can do and I can have anything that I'm willing to get up and make the right choice and take the necessary action to have.
Exactly. No, I think you hit it right on the nail. The bottom line is I think people hold on to their past too much sometimes. And I've heard this quote before, and it's, when you are anxious, you're thinking about the future. When you're depressed, you're thinking about the past. When you're at peace, you're living in the moment. And it's easier said than done sometimes. And especially when we come from the past that me and you do, you want to sometimes hold on to those things and you think that they, dictate your future, but they really don't. And I just came from a Tony Robbins seminar, and one of the other things he said was, your past does not dictate your future, but it does if you live in it. If you live in the past and you fucking focus on it all the time, yeah, for sure it's going to dictate your future. But it's like, you cannot change your past. Let it go. Like, just become a better person. It's all about growth. I know for a fact, I don't even have to ask you. I know you wouldn't take back any of your past, because I wouldn't either. Because guess what? We wouldn't be the men we are today, here sitting in this room, me meeting you, if we hadn't had our past, right?
Amen.
And I'm so grateful for it. Do I wish it on anybody? Absolutely not. Would I ever do it again? Absolutely not. But would I take any of it back? Absolutely not.
So, back when we met, I just kind of come up with this idea.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was just
yeah, I remember that.
It was just an idea, just a dream, just an answer to a prayer,
Right.
And here we sit, a year and a half, 2 years later,
Yeah, and it's, for me, that's crazy that you say it's a year and a half, 2 years later, because it doesn't even feel like that. But I remember hitting the follow button on your IG page when you were at probably the same amount of followers that I'm at right now. And now to see that it's, 6K plus, I was just checking it the other day and I go, holy shit, he's really grown. That's what it's all about. Like I said, growth, and so I think it's funny too that, we came back in contact again and started, communicating again, right as I'm getting my thing launched up, HAPPYGANG, and, doing
So tell me a little bit about that. Where did that come from?
All
I'm
right.
assuming this started after our conversation.
Yes, it did. And here's the story. I've always wanted to reach out and touch people. I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker like Tony Robbins. I've wanted to do something like that, And I was sitting in the car with my friend and I was talking to him about it. And I said, I want to change people's lives. I want to talk to people, whether it be one-on-one, whether it's a mass audience. And he said, well, what's stopping you? And I said, well, I want to have a certain dollar amount in the bank and I want to have this and that before I launch it, so I can have all my ducks in a row. And he looked at me and he said, bullshit. And I said, what? He said, that's bullshit. He said, if you want to do it, you do it now. He said, there's no excuses. You don't need all this money saved up in the bank so you can go and be a motivational speaker, even at a smaller scale. He said, you're just making excuses. And I had two choices at that moment. I could sit there and justify it more and make more excuses, like what most society does. But that is a good friend who's telling me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear, right? And so I'm like, you know what? You're right, Seth. At that very moment, I promised him, I said, Seth, from here on out, I'm going to post a video on Snapchat every single day. And it's going to be, maybe it's short, maybe it's longer, whatever it is, it's going to be a little bit of motivation. I'm going to make a difference. And he said, okay, I love it. Now, at the time, it was just on Snapchat. Now, the reason why he had this mindset and was the one telling me this is because he owns his own business called Max Cinema. He does film production. Wow. He's 20 years old. He has his own studio. He's transferred to 3 different studios, each one bigger and bigger each time, bigger projects each time. He travels the world. He does what he loves. There's no excuses for him. He is an entrepreneur through and through. And he hasn't had a regular 9-to-5 job in probably 3 years since we graduated high school. Right out the gate, he was ready. He knew what he wanted to do.
Right.
And for a year, he lived in his studio.
Huh.
I mean, just scraping by. I mean, cooking food, ramen noodles, you know what I mean?
Right.
So when I heard him say that to me, I was like, I need to listen to this. You know what I mean?
It's not like you say you don't know what you're talking about.
Right, exactly. Right. Well, that's easy for you to say. No, that isn't. And that's honestly my least favorite thing to hear people say is that's easy for you to say.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because everybody came from somewhere.
Right.
But I'll get back on track with it. He was like, okay, do it. I want to see you do it. And he's had that conversation with many of our friends. You know, we have a lot of similar friends. We went to middle school together, knew each other through high school. And, he hit me up 10 days later. He's like, man, you've been crazy consistent. And since that day, I've done a video every single day, except for I think maybe one day where I apologize to the viewers.
Right.
But the bottom line is it's consistency. And there was days where I got up where I was like, oh, I don't know what to talk about. I don't want to do this. But now it's like part of my morning routine. I love it. And if I'm in a bad mood, I do it. And because I'm preaching and I know what I need to do and I know what I want to help others with,
Right.
I get in the right mindset. Just like us talking right now. You know what I mean? This gets me in the mode. This gets me amped up. I can feel the energy in the room. And I love it. This is what I live for. So, you don't want to ask me too many questions because I'll just keep talking.
You do my heart good. I love it. I want to know. I want to ask you something.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Before I forget it, though.
Yeah.
Your first one.
What was that?
Your first one.
My first one.
Your first video.
Yeah, so
how hard was that to do it?
It didn't have as much like quality content as it does right now. So like now
I didn't ask that though. I didn't ask that.
It wasn't that hard. Because the only reason why it was difficult to get the courage up to do it, and I think it was more of like a fear thing, kind of like embarrassment.
That's like, what I want to hear, because that's the truth.
I get what
that is the truth.
Here's the thing with it. Is what I've learned lately.
That's what stops most people.
Right, is the fear.
Do you know how hard it was for me to get in front of this camera?
Yeah. So I take that back. Because now putting myself in the moment, I'm not going to sit there and be like that. It was tough because I was so worried about what others would think. Well, what if I goof up in the video? Or what if I do this and that? What if people laugh at me? And the bottom line is, who cares? Do those people dictate my happiness? No. So why do you care about their opinions? Why? That's what society is formed on nowadays, and I honestly hate it.
I just watched one you did the other day when you said the very thing.
Yeah,
you said the very thing.
Yeah, I learned that even more so in Tony Robbins. I like to think that I'm a pretty goofball guy, who doesn't care what people think, but I realized I was still holding on to things. I was still trying to put out a certain persona. And the moment you let that go and you just be your absolute true self, it is so liberating. And I want to make a point on that too, because I think that the world is lacking compassion. And when I see those tears in your eyes, that is compassion. Who gives a shit what other people think? Real men can get up and say shit like this and shed a tear or two, because this is real emotion. This is real life.
I'm doing this because I'm scared to.
Right.
Therefore, I know I have to.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. I know I have to. If I don't, it's going to own me.
Oh, big time.
It's going to limit me. I just as well sit down and get comfortable where I'm at.
Right.
So the fact that it scares me lets me know that that's something I have to.
For sure.
Overcome.
Right. Don't regret failing, or you're going to regret failing, or no, how does it go? You're not going to regret failing, but you're going to regret not trying.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
I can't tell you how many times I've told people, they're like, so what are you doing these days? And I'm like, I don't even know how to answer the question, honestly, right? And I'm like, I guess you'd call me an activist. I mean, I'm trying to make some positive change in the world. I'm going to try and end racism, or at least turn the damn page on it. So that's not what I've been looking at for the past 50 years. Mm-hmm. And they look at me a little befuddled, right? Like, oh, wow. Is this guy serious or what, right? And I'm like, yeah, I may fail, but I've failed at less noble things. So I got to at least try.
Right. Well, and like you said, the fact that you feel that fear, you need to try it. Like, I'm realizing that big time. When you fear something, the easiest way to get rid of it is throw yourself in it. Right?
Gotta do it.
Like, and the longer that you build up that fear and say, oh, I got to wait for when the time is right, the more the fear builds up. I know I keep referencing Tony Robbins, but it is because it made a huge like turning point in my life. I feel like I thought I had a good mindset before it, but now I'm like a changed man. I walked on 2,000-degree coals with bare feet for 15 feet. Because guess what? I was in the right state. I was in the right state of mind. And it's crazy. I didn't have no blisters on my feet. Well, how did you do that? It's mind over matter. When you're in the right state, your body literally gives off an energy field that protects you.
Absolutely.
And it was just wild for me, I finally got to the point where I was afraid of something and I knew how to put myself in state, and it was less fearful or no fear at all. And I just looked up and I just walked on those fuckers. It was so great, man. And it was liberating. It's not the fact that, I walked on fire, but it's if you can do something like that can seriously harm you, imagine the things that you're not trying that you could do easily. And it's just doing it, man. After the first time, it's easy.
After walking on coals, overcoming that fear, the fear of somebody leaving a negative comment is a little less scary, isn't it?
At this point, I love it. I don't even care.
Yeah.
Bad publicity is better than no publicity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They still heard.
Yeah. And so in the beginning, I definitely was trying to make sure, I get everything right. I do this and that. Right. But now when I make them, I know that I have, even if I think there's probably about, I would say 25 to 30 people that look at my videos every single day that I get feedback from that say, hey, dude, I watch this every day. Even just one person, if I can get one person to watch my videos and say, you know what, you made a difference in my life, I've done my job. And I feel more fulfilled than I had if I hadn't done it.
I posted the first clip from the first podcast last Friday, I think. And the young man that did it with me, I told him that I posted it. And next thing you know, later that evening, I'm receiving texts from him, and he's sharing comments from people that had seen it on his page. And, one of them was a friend of his, and he was saying, what a great job, He's like, if I could give one bit of, advice and or criticism, it'd be tell your buddy to not keep minimizing what he's doing and what he can do.
Right.
It only takes one person. It only takes somebody willing to try, And I of course, responded back. I'm like, thank you. You made my night. Because regardless of what happens now with whatever, I knew I'd made a difference for one person. Mm-hmm. I knew I at least made a difference for one person. If everybody else chooses not to listen to that message or gain anything from it or dismiss it, whatever, right? Then, hey, that was their choice, free will,
Mm-hmm.
But.
Oh, and it only takes, I like the analogy of the 1 degree. I'm sure you've heard it before. What's the difference between water being still and it boiling is 1 degree. You know what I mean? You may not see all the work that puts it up there, but it's just 1 degree and boom, you make a difference. You know what I mean? And to go along with the negative criticism, if you ever receive that, the bottom line is if you're getting that, I think that that's good because I want to cut that person out. I talked about that today in my video. If somebody is saying that that's not possible, or your dreams about this petition are, they're way out there, man. Do you want that person in your life? Hell no. I want to surround myself with top performers. And that's what me and you are. This is top performers. And who's going to be watching this podcast? Top performers.
Well, people that want to overcome fear.
Yeah.
People that want to be free.
Right.
People that want to be empowered.
Oh, for sure.
I could choose a victim mentality just as quickly as I could choose an empowered one.
That's true.
Right?
That's very true.
And unfortunately, every morning, I've got to pick one up. And sometimes we get trapped, in some negative stuff.
Right.
I watched a phenomenal podcast with Joe Dispenza talking about this very thing and how, we get trapped into those feelings. Negative feelings cause different emotions and state in your body. And unfortunately, a lot of times we identify with that, and that becomes who we are because we've accepted it. So if we don't feel that, we feel like something's missing and we're uncomfortable, and we'll actually seek it out. And if that person's not available, I'll find it in somebody else because I like that victim mentality. You know, it's who I am.
Right. I think the issue is that that's the norm nowadays, is to be like that. You know, and it's becoming more rare and rare to find somebody who thinks, in my opinion, the way that you should be thinking. If you were supposed to be sad all the time, it would feel good. But like Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, he's one of my favorites, Becoming Supernatural. I'm sure have you read that book before?
It's on my list now.
Oh, God, bro. That is like the go-to for me.
Right.
That was one that like really struck something inside me. And he talks about how our bodies become addicted to feeling like that.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. I mean, for me, I'm only 20, but if I lived 18 years like that, I mean, that's all I know is to be down and to be sad or to escape with a substance. You know what I mean? So we've got to rewire our brains to be like, hey, that's not the way you should be living. You know what I mean? And obviously it's all relative, but I mean, that's just my views on it, you know.
I love it. So, America Undivided. Bringing Americans together. Turning the page on racism, or hell, I say ending racism, because it's something we've created, therefore we can end it. What's your feelings?
I think it's a no-brainer. Like for me personally, and I don't get it. Now I had a middle school teacher, okay? And it was a social studies middle school teacher. And I remember her talking about race, saying there is no race. There's the human race. You know, we've segregated people. And even though, I mean, we think that we've come a long way, I mean, have we really? You know what I mean? Like, now it's just like, now we got to be PC. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's just like, and we've got to be real with ourselves. And it really struck home for me when she said that. Because prior to that, you know, I'm pretty young. I was in 8th grade, I think. Right. I didn't really have, you know, I thought, oh, you know, racism was, you know, back in the day, it's no more. But we are the human race. There is no dividing. There's people from different parts of the world where their body has adapted. That's why they look the way they look. We are all human. We all have feelings. We all have love, compassion, energy. You know, it's just, for me, it's a no-brainer. When I'm filling out something and I see, are you Caucasian? Are you Asian? Are you African American? What the hell does that matter? If you say you're not going to discriminate against me, why should I have to fill that out? I don't think that I've ever been racist. I think there was a time in my life where I was uneducated, you know, or maybe when I was younger, I didn't understand why people look different. You know what I mean? And we all asked questions growing up. But I remember very young, one of my best friends was, you know, African American. And I grew up with him. I played basketball with him all the time. And I never saw anything different. I might have asked questions, you know what I mean? I'm young, like, why is your hair curly like that or something like that? You know what I mean? But I'd never considered myself racist. You know, and I think it really did strike, though, when my 8th grade teacher said that we're the human race. I'm like, there really is no difference between us. We are all humans. You know, just like me and you have curlier hair than I do. You know what I mean? My hair's thicker. I got bigger ears that stick out. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, we're just all different.
Well, you're a little whiter than me.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a lot of tanning in my 50 years.
Right.
I've got some pigment that you don't have.
I just get a freckle. I got fair skin for sure. You don't even want to see my thighs. They're white.
I heard somebody the other day say, you know, white is a color. We're all colored. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
What a powerful statement.
Right.
That most people don't think of in America. Kind of like the comment you made. You said, you know, I had a friend growing up that was African American. And my question would be, really? He was born in Africa?
And that's why, and I guess maybe I don't even necessarily know all the correct terms, but he was not born in Africa, no.
That is a correct term in the U.S.
Yeah.
That's one we made up.
Yeah. Huh. That's crazy to think about. And why do we do that?
It's that simple.
I'm even, look at me trying to
be
simple. Politically correct almost.
You know?
Yeah.
I have tried to, over the past year and a half, since I've started down this road, to quit using the term. And so, yeah, Black American, white American.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No,
because he was born here just like me.
Right.
He's as much American as I am.
Right. Yeah. And that's funny how we almost, and even I'm guilty.
We do it unconsciously.
Right. And because it's built into your subconscious, you don't even realize you're doing it. I'm thinking I'm being politically correct as I'm talking about people being politically correct. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But that's brilliant. And that's what I'm talking about. That's growth right there. Now I know.
Something that small could have an effect on our entire country if we chose to become aware of it.
Right.
If we chose to quit allowing the subconscious to just continue and perpetuate forward the very thing that we keep saying something needs to change.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many signatures you got in your petition right now?
Too few.
Too few.
Do you know what my goal is?
I think you shared it with me. I forget though.
125 million. Do you know why?
Because that's what it'll take to.
There's 325 million Americans, right?
Uh-huh.
It's growing. Probably another one now, right? But I figure 250 million represents 18 and above. So about 2/3 or so, right, are going to be 18 and above. And I would like to have half of the adult population vote for change. See, the petition to me is more than a petition. The petition to me is a measuring stick to see where America is today. Racism could have already ended and we wouldn't know it because there's no way to measure it. I don't think we'll ever rid this country of hatred. I am not a fool. I can't change people's hearts. You get to wake up every morning and choose, right? Just like I did. But in a democracy, wouldn't it be majority rule? Wouldn't it be as simple as a vote and or a petition that would show us where we are?
Right.
If 125 million Americans choose change,
Right.
You're a student of Joe Dispenza. You get that much energy directed at making a change. Is change going to happen?
Oh yeah. Well,
you better look out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think the coolest part is just the fact that it's all exponential. That if you get it to a certain point, it's just gonna domino effect. You know what I mean? And I can already see the growth right now just from where you've come in the short amount of time. And I'm just stoked for, what is going to come of it. I'm stoked. Because I know it's going to be national one day. And I saw
grandiose visions,
right. Well, and that's the only way to do it nowadays. We have so much opportunity here in America. You know what I mean? If you want to change something, if you have the willpower, the right tools, the right resources, you can do it. And you can find those tools and resources.
Well, I've got the willpower. I've got the desire, the passion. I'm willing to suit up and show up. But I am asking for help.
Right.
I'm asking for all influencers.
Right.
Get involved.
Yeah.
Make a contribution. Come in, do a podcast.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Share a video. Show your support. You know what I mean? Let's see what we can do. The Rock. The Rock is who I initially started to do the image of on the shirt, right? The Rock is mixed. He's not one or the other, right? He's an American, and he's got 130 million followers. Just if people that love The Rock decided it would be done.
Right. That's wild to think about.
America is over half women these days. Women are the most discriminated against group in our country. They've been discriminated against for the longest. And to the greatest degree, you know what I mean? In so many ways. If just women saw this as a move for equal rights, America, based on being a human being and a citizen, not on female or male. If just the women decided to stand together, it would be done. But we have to quit looking for a reason not to.
Right.
And start looking for all the reasons why this is better than what we've been doing before.
Yes. See, and too many people are always trying to find the reason not to do something. You know, and this is so possible. It's so obtainable. I can see the vision. And we just need more people that can see the vision. You know what I mean? It's so obtainable. And like I said earlier, it's a no-brainer to me. I just don't. Once people see it, once they get the exposure to it, I feel like it's going to be easy. It's just reaching out to those people. And I'm letting you know I'm here to help you for damn sure. And you know what tomorrow's motivation morning is gonna be. Go check out Human EQ and sign this petition. And hopefully we get at least a couple hundred more on the petition.
Well, I would sure appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
What kind of ideas do you have? I mean, my latest idea, and your dad was nice enough to help me, you know, with a couple of contacts and stuff, is I want to have our youth debate this.
Well, you know, I think that the youth will be more on your side than your generation will be, to be honest. You know what I mean? I think people are starting to open up their eyes a little bit more.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that you guys would do a lot better if we would quit perpetuating forward our past experience onto you.
Right.
You know?
For sure.
So, yeah, I would like to see the debate teams across the country debating the petition, debating on whether this is something that could actually happen and they see the benefit of or not. And maybe then people would be a lot more willing to listen than if it was an older person like myself or somebody else, you know? Right. Because unfortunately, you know, if we make changes today, I'm going to be ecstatic, but the real change is going to come from re-educating Americans. So something I said in a different podcast, you know, the incident happens at Starbucks, or, you know, a police officer, or, you know, a fan at a Jazz game happened most recently, right? Yeah. Or that incident in Georgia, right? And Starbucks is like, okay, I'm going to shut down all my U.S. stores for 3 hours on this date. We're going to do some training. We need to retrain our employees. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Where'd those employees come from? Did you like ship them in from different country? You know what I mean? Yeah. So is it really Starbucks' fault?
Right.
Or should maybe America start pointing the finger at ourselves and saying, you know, this is an American problem.
Right.
That we need to fix the problem long before somebody gets old enough to work at Starbucks. You know, yeah. And that's why, again, I believe that the petition could be so much better than all the talk in the world. Only because if we can actually have our government change something, we can now have a teachable event to start building on and re-educating from, so that hopefully in 10, 20, 30 years down the road, my kids and grandkids aren't dealing with the same thing that I've watched continue to perpetuate forward for the past 50 years.
It's crazy to think about. You got my brain going, man. I think that people have just got to let go, like you're saying, like your generation, the people that are your age, because I think it would be easier for people in my generation or the youth that has, is to come, for it to happen, because if they can learn it from the get-go, it's going to be easy for them to understand that it is just a human race. Like me, I had one teacher that said something, and I guarantee you to the 30 kids in that classroom, they probably have a different perspective on it than, say, somebody who never had that class, right?
Never had that teacher. Yeah.
Right. Or never had that teacher. So the tough part is like what you're talking about is changing the people who are stuck in their ways. And nowadays, a lot of people are really stuck in their ways. They're addicted to it,
So how do we do that? Because, see, we can't do that with a petition.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I think you
So
can't.
we did identify the educating, right? Teaching it in schools,
Right.
starting to teach it young,
Right.
correcting the problem before it comes to problem. Right?
I think you can't and you can, though. Because if the petition gets big enough, maybe somebody might take a step back and realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't be thinking this way. You know what I mean? I think one of the things that you did, like with the jazz players, that's broadcasting to a huge audience. You know what I mean? And a lot of those people aren't necessarily my age. They're probably quite a bit older. And maybe they're seeing, you know what I mean? That image that I saw on your Instagram was powerful, of the holding the hands and all the jazz players wearing it. That gave me goosebumps down my body. You know what I mean? And I mean, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. I mean, really I think exposure, getting out there, just getting people to realize, like we said, it only takes one moment for someone to switch. I don't think that there's going to be necessarily one thing that gets, 125 million people to realize, but I think it's the continuous effort over and over and over again. If you continue to do stuff like you did with the jazz players and get it broadcasted by somebody who has a huge influence, people listen to those people. And sometimes it's sad, because those people could portray whatever image they want or portray whatever they want. But if they're portraying something like this, the human race, that we need to abolish racism, and the fact that we live in today's day and age in America, 2019, and there's still racism, and we've still got cops shooting black people over nothing, that's bullshit. And it gets me fired up. And watching those videos, I hate even watching it, dude. And all we need is more people to stand up and be vocal like this on this podcast right now, and not care what others think, and know what is the right thing to do. That's honestly my idea. And sometimes I'm not always good putting like particulars together. I just have the vision, and I'm you know what I mean? And so, like you said, you have the willpower. You know what I mean? And we're going to learn as we go.
I think you hit the nail on the head, because the petition creates the measuring stick. Petition creates the hope, if you will, for somebody that's maybe in a bad situation that wonders, where are we at today? Are people against me or are they for me? Right? It alleviates that. But I think what converts that person, when you said they took a step back, they looked at the petition, and then they, decided, hey, I need it.
Right.
It makes me think of a quote. And I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are screaming so loud. I think what converts those people is seeing. They're going to have to see it. They're going to have to feel it. It's not going to be the words on a petition. It's going to be the post. It's going to be the event. It's going to be somebody reached out and changed my perception.
Right.
I watched a movie this past weekend. It was just a great movie, that Green Book.
I haven't seen it yet.
I hadn't seen it. I didn't know a lot about it. I knew that it was, getting recognition. It was supposed to be really good. I knew it was about, racism and stuff, But the Green Book is the book that Black Americans had to use if they were going to travel down south, so that they knew which hotels they could stay in, which ones they were welcome at or not welcome, because they weren't welcome in the other ones.
Right.
So they could plan their trip and be able to stay somewhere.
Right.
And of course, being you're looking at that in 2019, I mean, that just turns your stomach in itself, right? Let alone watching the rest of the movie. But this gentleman was a phenomenal pianist, and he didn't have to. He wanted to do a tour down south. And so he knew it was going to be problems. And therefore he hired a Italian bodyguard to make sure he made it, down there and back safe. And of course, this guy was somewhat racist. I mean, I think no more than anybody else, he was basically doing what he was taught to do, right? But of course, as they traveled across the country, I mean, all of his friends told him, you're not going to make it a week or two with a black guy, your boss. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the further they got, I mean, he was just a hard-nosed guy. He's not going to quit, The more they got into the trip, the more they got to know each other. The more they realized how much they admired and respected each other. The more they built a friendship and a love and respect,
Mm-hmm.
And so the petition gives us a measuring stick. It gives us the event that could happen that we could teach. But really where the rubber meets the road is when each one of us go out in the world each day. What are we representing?
Yep.
Are we representing the past? Or are we representing the kind of future in the America that we want to leave to our kids?
Right. And I think you hit a big point on like the movie, right? Because that movie stuck out to you, but I know a lot of other people have been talking about that movie, and I really wish I would have watched it because I had a chance to, and I don't know why, but I skipped out on it. I watched a different movie. But I've seen quite a few movies out just lately that are talking about, there's a movie called Blind Spotting, and it's kind of different, but I'm just seeing more and more movies pop up. The Black Klansman, more and more movies popping up that are talking about these topics that have been kind of, should we do this? You know what I mean? And just more diversity in different movies. And I think that's reaching a lot of people because, you weren't the only one watching the Green Book.
No.
So to hit on your point, what's another idea, Brett? I'm thinking a documentary, something big that we can expose, because if we can gain some traction with a documentary, that's big time right there. Show what's happening right now and the difference that we can make.
I like it. So can I count on you for a signature?
Oh, absolutely. I've already filled it out. I don't know if I should say this, but on multiple accounts.
You're going to help me share this thing?
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
Get it out there?
I already want to. And I've already showed it to a few people, you know what I mean? But I'm definitely going to make a bigger effort. And I definitely, after, coming back in contact with you, if you ever need anything at all, you let me know. Because I want to be involved in this as much as possible and make a difference. Because that's what we need. We need as many soldiers as we possibly can.
And lastly, I want to thank you.
I want to thank you, brother.
Dude, I don't want to just thank you for coming by and talking to me. That day we talked, I had the opportunity to share my story with you and connect and start a friendship and hopefully inspire you in some way, right? And for me and your dad to be talking and him to say, oh my gosh, Brett's doing so good. Have you seen his Instagram account? He's posting inspirational videos every day. And for me to go on there and start watching those and to see you and watch you light up every morning and share that message. For you to come in here and you to say, part of my goal, my vision, my dream was to be a motivational speaker, inspiration to other people, right? But I felt like I had to get to a certain point to be able to do that, right? It's like you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, if you'll hear it on one of the other podcasts, I think, but I've said that to I can't tell you how many people. once I get back to where I got my life put back together, where I feel comfortable, my family be okay, then what I would really like to do is be a motivational speaker and help other people.
Just excuses.
Just excuse. But before you showed up today, what I found myself thinking is that, Rich, if you pull this off, you're going to be one of the biggest motivations.
Big time.
To one of the largest groups of people that you could have ever hoped to influence. So quit thinking that one day maybe you could or should do something, and just, when you wake up today, whatever decisions you make are going to determine the person that goes to bed that night. So if you want to be a motivation or an inspiration to somebody, best way to do it is to live that life today, because there's no guarantee on tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you
for being an inspiration to me.
Absolutely.
At this point.
I appreciate you, man.
I love you. I appreciate you.
I love you, boss. Bring it in, brother.